Chris Jericho has been catching heat from the fans recently, and not the good kind. Jericho's always had a knack for reinvention, whether he's been known as Y2J or the best in the world or Le Champion, but AEW fans are now begging for him to simply go away. We're hearing chants of "please retire," "go home Jericho," and "Fozzy sucks." These chants were heard at the Dynasty pay-per-view on Sunday, where Jericho was wrestling Hook for the FTW Championship on the show. This was in a storyline where the 53-year-old Jericho was offering to mentor the 24-year-old. This was already the least anticipated match on the card, and it didn't take long for the crowd to turn on Jericho. The chants got louder and louder as the match went on, and then, much to the disgust of the fans, Jericho beat Hook to become the new champion. And to see where all of this negativity has stemmed from, we have to go back to the end of 2023. There were some allegations flying around at the time that Jericho had something to do with Kylie Ray leaving AEW, and that there was some kind of cover-up where Jericho influenced her to sign an NDA. That led to fans chanting NDA at him during the World's End pay-per-view in December, despite Jericho being a babyface at the time. Apart from that incident, the rot has been setting in with Jericho for quite some time. He's been with AEW since May 2019, that's 5 whole years, and the fans have gone from loudly singing his entrance music to begging him to go away forever. Jericho was a real asset to AEW in the first year of Dynamite. Who can forget when this went viral, for example?
What else we got? Oh, a little bit of the bubbly. Want some bubbly? Look at this stuff.
And he was a great world champion in 2019. Then he moved on to helping the younger guys on the roster to get over. But now all of that seems to have gone out of the window. We've also seen a sharp decline in his wrestling ability. No doubt Jericho was once one of the world's greatest wrestlers. He was in my personal top 5 wrestlers for many years, but either through laziness or just advanced age, his matches have sucked for quite a while. I'd say that his career has been in a nosedive for over a year at this point. How he managed to have a disappointing match with Bryan Danielson at All Out 2022, I'll never know. I think he's starting to really tarnish his legacy at this point. Jericho's been destroying the momentum of his opponents for years at this point. Everyone who feuds with him ends up coming out looking worse. Ricky Starks, Eddie Kingston, even Claudio Castagnoli in Ring of Honor. He has this tendency to attach himself to wrestlers who are getting hot, then he feuds with them, and then he leaves that wrestler colder than when they started. People have started calling this the Jericho Vortex. He's actually trademarked that phrase, by the way, so there is some hope that he's at least self-aware enough to hear the critics and do some course correction. I have to question whether Jericho has creative control over his own storylines and his wins and losses, or maybe he's leaning on Tony Khan to put him over. Either way, Jericho's presence in AEW is currently negatively affecting the rest of the roster. It reminds me a lot of the likes of Triple H and Hulk Hogan, how they used to serve themselves instead of putting over the young guys. And Jericho himself was a victim of Triple H's nepotistic booking 20 years ago, and he also left WCW because he thought the old guys were out of touch. You'd think that Jericho, of all people, would know better. Very rarely do the fans break out the "please retire" chant. It means something is really broken when they start to do that. You know, the fans are just really tired of Jericho right now. Throughout his career, Jericho has been the master of reinventing his character, but in AEW, the changes in his character have been minimal. Yes, he went from Le Champion to the leader of the Inner Circle and the Demo God, but his character still seems very similar to when he debuted. When he used to change his character in WWE, it was usually after returning from a hiatus, and perhaps that's the problem here. He's got this new gimmick right now of being the learning tree, where he's going to teach the young guys a thing or two about wrestling. I think this is a bad idea if he's not going to put those wrestlers over. So how can Jericho fix this problem? Well, I think he'd benefit from going away for a while, maybe taking a year off to heal up and get back in shape, because quite honestly, he looks like a mess right now. He could go on tour with Fozzy, chill out, do whatever he wants to do, just leave wrestling for a while. A long absence might refresh the fans' appreciation for him, or maybe it's time for him to hang up the boots altogether. This recent sharp decline in his ability could just be a sign that it's time to retire. He could come back from a break and declare that this will be his retirement run. There are other options too. He doesn't have to hang up the boots forever. Perhaps he could transition to a non-wrestling role as a manager and get back in the ring on a part-time basis instead. I think having Jericho as a special attraction who only wrestles a few times a year would definitely increase his worth in the eyes of the fans. Of course, it's also possible that he's bored of performing in AEW, and his recent decline in work rate might just be a symptom of that. He's gotten lazy or complacent, it's just too easy. So perhaps a return to WWE would do him good instead. If he did go back to WWE, that would solve AEW's Jericho problem immediately. Let a younger talent take his place and stop Jericho from stinking up Dynamite every week. Do you agree with my opinion here? What would you do to rectify AEW's Jericho situation? As always, I'm interested to read your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll speak to you again in the next one.